Ah, good sir or madam, what say you? Forgive mine intrusion, forsooth I did not intend to startle thee. Thou didst seem deceived by weighty thoughts, and thus I didst feel compelled to interpose and divert thy mind from such dark musings. Mayhap thou wilt pardon my interference? Splendid! I did come to visit thee since I did espy thee at the gathering loud. Well, it hath been some months now, should I recall aright. Verily, a long while indeed, that I am unsure if thou dost even remember who I might be. Dost thou remember who I am? If thou needst a refresher on who I might be, I am Zestial, one of the endless overlords in hell. 'Tis a pleasure to meet thee once again. Miss Carmine. Yes, she doth fare well as of now. Thou needst not fret o'er her present condition. The same may be spoken of her maidens. They have prospered in their offices within Carmine Industries. But enough of that, I trow. How art thou now that we have conversed? Better? More at ease? I see. Thou know'st 'tis ever wise to unbend and take respite when most needed, especially in a world so mutable and wild as now. I am right glad to know thou art well in thine own measure, dear sinner. Now then, hast thou any questions for me at this hour? I could grant thee more of my time, and thou desirest it. Tea? Wouldst thou have some tea whilst I peruse a book? Why, that soundeth not ill. Grant me but a moment, prithee. I shall peruse my trove of fables and novels. In the meantime, what tea wouldst thou prefer? I may brew aught from oolong to assam, chamomile, darjeeling, green tea, black, all those varieties. Ah, a fine choice for tea, mine own dear. Now, allow me to seek a worthy book to read. Griselda. What sayest thou? Wilt thou hearken into mine tale of a peasant maid who endured sundry trials that did assay her devotion and patience unto her husband? Very well. I do hope thou art comfortable in thy seat, for this may consume some time. Griselda, a moral tale by Charles Perrault. At the foot of the mountains, where the Po escaped from its bed of reeds to the neighboring plain, there once lived a youthful and gallant prince, the favorite of the whole countryside. Combining in himself all the gifts of body and spirit, he was strong, clever, skillful in war, and displayed great enthusiasm for the arts. He loved fighting and victory too, along with all mighty endeavors and deeds of glory, everything which makes one's name live in history. But more than all these, his greatest pleasure lay in the happiness of his people. This splendid disposition was obscured, however, by a somber cloud, a melancholy mood which caused the prince to feel, in the depths of his heart, that all women were faithless and deceivers. Even in a woman of the highest distinction he saw only the heart of a hypocrite, elated with pride. To him she was a cruel enemy whose unbroken ambition was to gain the mastery over whatever unhappy man might surrender to her. Each day the prince gave his morning to his royal business. He ruled wisely, doing everything he thought best for his people, the frail orphan, the oppressed widow, protecting the rights of all. The remainder of the day was devoted to the chase, either the stag or the bear. These, in spite of their ferocity, frightened him less than the charming women whom he shunned daily. His subjects nevertheless kept urging him to provide them with an heir to the throne, someone who would rule them with the same affection that the prince had always shown. In reply to their urgings, the prince said, "The seal with which you urge me to marry pleases me greatly. I am greatly touched, but I am convinced," he added, "that happiness can be found in a marriage only when one of the two partners is dominant over the other. If, therefore, you wish to see me wed, find me a young beauty without pride or vanity, obedient with tried and proved patience, and, above all, with a domineering will of her own. Once you have found her, I will marry. The prince, having finished these comments, flung himself on his horse and galloped off to join his hounds. Over field and meadow he flew to find his fellow huntsmen waiting for him, ready and alert. Therefore he ordered the chase to begin at once and urged the dogs after the stag. The blare of the horns, the thunder of the horses' hooves, and the baying of the hounds filled the forest with tumult, so that the echoes were repeated endlessly, growing louder and louder in the hollows of the woods. By chance, or perhaps by destiny, the prince turned one day into a winding road where none of the huntsmen followed him. The further he went, the more widely he became separated from them, until finally he reached a point where he no longer heard either the howls or the horns of the huntsmen. The place where his strange adventure had led him, with its clear streams and shadowy trees, filled the prince with awe. The simple and unspoiled nature about him was so beautiful and pure that 1,000 times he blessed his wanderings from the well-known paths. Filled with the reveries which pervaded the woods, fields, and streams, his heart and his eyes were suddenly confronted by a most delightful object, the sweetest and kindliest ever seen under heaven. It was a young shepherdess. She would indeed have tamed the most savage heart. Her complexion was like a lily whose fresh whiteness had always been shielded from the sun. Her lips were most engaging. Her eyes, softened by dark lashes, were bluer than the sky and even more bright. The prince, transported with delight, slipped back quietly into the wood where he might gaze unseen onto the beauty by which his heart was possessed. The noise which he made, however, caused the girl to glance in his direction. The moment she saw him, she blushed deeply, and this, in turn, added to her beauty. Under this innocent veil of modesty, the prince discovered a simplicity, a sweetness, and a sincerity which he did not believe possible in any woman. He drew nearer to her, and even more timid and confused than she. He explained in a trembling voice that he had lost all trace of the other huntsman, and asked if perchance the chase had passed through that part of the wood. No one has been seen in this solitary place except you, she said. But do not be disturbed, I will put you on the right road again. For this extraordinary good fortune, said the prince, I cannot be thankful enough to heaven. For a long time I have been accustomed to visit such places as these, but until today I have not realized how precious they might be to me. As the maiden saw the prince kneel on the edge of the stream to quench his thirst, she called to him to wait, and hurrying to her little cottage, she returned with a cup which she graciously handed him. All the precious goblets of crystal, agate, and gold, sparkling and artfully designed, never had for him, in their silly uselessness, had half the beauty of this clay cup which the shepherdess had just given him. To find an easy road whereby the prince might return to his palace, together they journeyed through the woods, over steep rocks and across torrents, and as he followed across this unfamiliar route, the prince observed all the landmarks carefully. He was dreaming already that he would wish some day to return, and his love was making a fateful map for him to do so. From a dark grove where finally the shepherdess had led him, he spied through the branches the golden roofs of his magnificent palace. Separated shortly from the beautiful girl, he was soon beset by a deep grief. The recollection of his recent adventure filled him with pleasure, yet on the morrow he was depressed with weariness and sorrow. As soon as he could, he arranged another hunt, and cleverly giving his followers the slip, sought again the woods and hills where the young shepherdess dwelt. There he found her, living with her father, and learned that her name was Griselda. Together the girl and the old man lived simply on the milk of their flock and wove their garments from the fleece. As the days went by, the more he saw of her, the brighter the prince's love burned for his shepherdess. He was filled with an extreme happiness, and, finally, one day he called his counselors together and spoke to them. In accordance with your wishes, I am at last planning to wed, although I shall not take a wife from a strange land, but from someone among us, someone lovely, wise, and well-bred. I shall eagerly await the great moment to inform you of my choice. Ah, hath my words brought thee comfort with naught but that? We have not yet traversed half the tale, forsooth. Sinner, art thou still in possession of thy wits? Alas! Well, I suppose this hath brought thee some measure of ease, hath it not? Yet I cannot leave thee thus, therefore. Gentle dreams, dear sinner.